All right, today we're doing more than just explaining a topic. We're really getting into a whole new mindset. We're going to deconstruct this hidden architecture of trust, the one that holds up the entire modern digital economy. It's all about mastering what's called guarantee psychology, understanding how the fastest growing companies out there literally engineer certainty. Okay, let's dive in. So, what's the biggest thing killing your business? It's not your price, it's not your competition, it's not even your marketing. Look, the biggest opponent you'll ever face, it's just a silent question. A little voice that pops up inside your customer's head right before they click buy. What if this is a huge mistake? It's like this ghost in the machine, right? And that single moment of doubt has killed more sales than any recession, I guarantee it. So today, we're gonna give that ghost a name, and then we're gonna figure out how to get rid of it for good. All right, so here's our game plan. First up, we're going to define the enemy, this hidden cost called the Stupidity Tax. Then we'll look at the history that made this fear so intense, the crisis of trust. After that, we'll break down the solution, this powerful three-part engine called the risk reversal stack. Then we'll get into the psychology, the biology of the buy to see why it's so effective. Then I'll give you a practical guide, your blueprint for certainty. And finally, we'll wrap it all up by talking about this new identity, the architect of certainty. Okay, so let's start with the big idea here. The core problem that, honestly, traditional marketing just completely misses. It's this fear, and it has nothing to do with the price tag. It has everything to do with the price of being wrong. It's called the Stupidity Tax. I want you to imagine this, a CTO, okay? She's about to sign off on a huge six-figure contract for a new data platform. On paper, the ROI looks great. Her team's pumped. But her fingers just hovering over that approve button. So what's really going through her head? It's not the budget. No way. She's picturing a failed implementation. She's imagining that awful meeting with your CEO, trying to explain why all their data is suddenly gone. She's thinking about the hit to her reputation, the whispers in the hallway, the professional cost of making a bad call. That's the real fear. And that fear, that whole collection of what ifs, that's the Stupidity Tax. It's the sum of everything a refund can't ever fix. Think about it. It's weeks of her team's productivity just gone. It's the nightmare of switching back to the old system. It's the hit to her career inside the company. And it's not just for execs, right? For a small business owner, it's the mortgage payment they can't make. For a freelancer, it's that big client they just lost. This is that invisible friction that can stop a sale dead in its tracks, even when everything else looks perfect. For decades, the marketing playbook has been just completely wrong about this. Everyone just assumed that when a customer hesitates, it's about money. So the solution was always, hey, let's offer a discount. But that's like trying to cure someone's fear of heights by giving them a glass of water. It makes no sense. You're solving the wrong problem. The real friction isn't on a spreadsheet. It's in their gut. It's this deep emotional fear of making a mistake. And a discount? That doesn't help. If anything, it can make it worse, kind of signaling that maybe your product isn't even worth the full price. The only thing that works, the only antidote to that fear, is certainty. And this brings us to a hard truth. The old 30-day money-back guarantee, it's dead. It's a fossil from another era. It's a totally hollow promise because it does nothing, absolutely nothing, to protect a buyer from that stupidity tax. Yeah, it offers to give them their money back, but it's never going to refund their time, their data, their energy, or their reputation. These days, a generic guarantee like that just signals a generic, low-confidence product. If you want to win, your promise has to be just as big as their fear. So how did this happen? How did that old guarantee, which used to be the gold standard, just lose all its power? Well, to get it, we've got to look back at the last few years. It was this whole period of broken promises and tech hype that led to this massive crisis of trust across the board. And that crisis, it sparked a huge evolution. So the story really kicks off in the early 2020s. We had this thing called the vaporware crisis. There was all this easy money floating around, and countless startups were just selling visions, They'd promised these revolutionary features on their websites that, well, they barely worked in the real world. So much over-promising and under-delivering. By the mid-2020s, the damage was done. Trust just collapsed. Buyers got super cynical. Satisfaction guaranteed became a total joke. But out of all that desperation, something new started to happen. The outcome economy. The whole conversation shifted from what your product could do to what outcome it could actually guarantee. And what's really interesting here is that this wasn't just some philosophical shift. It was driven by cold, hard math. Investors, they started ignoring all the vanity metrics like user growth. They started focusing on one number, net revenue retention or NRR. It's a really simple metric. It basically asks if you started the year with $100 from your customers, how much of that is still there at the end of the year? And the data showed this brutal truth. Companies with weak products and weak promises had a leaky bucket. Customers were leaving in droves, and the financial reality of all that hype finally came crashing down. All that financial pressure forced this massive rethinking of what a guarantee is even for. It's not a customer service tool for the 1% of people who might want a refund, no. It's a sales and marketing tool for the 99% who are sitting on the fence, just frozen by that fear of making a mistake. Its real purpose is to de-risk the decision for them, to give them that psychological safety they need to finally, confidently say yes. And this led to the ultimate change. Businesses finally realized they weren't just selling a product anymore. To even compete in this new outcome economy, they had to start selling something much bigger. Indemnity. It's a term that comes from the insurance world, and it just means protection against loss. So they were basically selling an insurance policy against the stupidity tax. They were promising that the brand, not the buyer, would be the one to pay the price if things went wrong. Okay, so if the old weak guarantee is dead, what replaced it? Now we get to move from the history to the actual mechanism. We're gonna pop the hood on the engine that powers this whole outcome economy. And this isn't just one simple promise. It's a carefully engineered, multi-layered defense system against doubt. It's called the risk reversal stack. So the stack has 3 different layers, and each one is designed to tackle a different part of that buyer fear. You've got layer 1, the specific pain neutralizer, layer 2, the brand penalty, and layer 3, the implementation shield. Put them all together, and you get this ironclad structure of certainty. So let's break each one down. Okay, layer 1 is all about being super precise. Vague promises like you'll love it or satisfaction guaranteed, they're totally useless. A specific pain neutralizer finds the customer's single biggest fear, their number one what-if nightmare, and makes a direct promise that makes that nightmare impossible. You're not promising satisfaction, you're finding their biggest pain point and you're guaranteeing you'll kill it. Here's what that looks like in the real world. Let's say an HR software company promises better hiring. I mean, what does that even mean? It's just marketing noise. But what if a company promises this? If you don't hire a qualified candidate from our platform in 30 days, we will pay for you to use our competitor. That is a specific pain neutralizer. It goes right after that fear of wasted time and money and just vaporizes it. All right, layer 2. This is where you put your money where your mouth is. It's the brand penalty. This is a promise where you agree to pay a price if you fail to deliver on layer 1. It could be double your money back, or a cash payment for their wasted time, or hey, even a donation to their favorite charity. The point isn't really the money. It's the signal it sends. It's a nonverbal way of screaming, we are so confident this will work that we're willing to take a hit if it doesn't. And finally, layer 3. This is the part that makes the whole system work and turns a simple transaction into a partnership. It's called the implementation shield. Basically, it makes that crazy strong guarantee from the first 2 layers conditional. It's only valid if the customer follows your proven plan for success. You know, like finishing the onboarding videos or using a key feature. And this is just brilliant. Why? Because it protects you from people misusing your product, but even more importantly, it creates this sense of shared responsibility. It gets the customer to actually engage and get the result they paid for in the first place. Okay, so we've got this powerful 3-layer engine, but why does it work so well? Why does it hit the human brain so hard? To really get it, we have to step away from business strategy for a second and dive into behavioral psychology. We have to look at the biology of the buy. The big idea at play here is something called anxiety arbitrage. So in finance, right, arbitrage is when you profit from a price difference. Well, here, the market is human emotion. You're basically recognizing that the price of your customer's anxiety is sky high, and you're making a trade. You're swapping out their anxiety for an overwhelming supply of certainty. You're tapping into this deep biological need for safety. And this isn't just a clever idea, it's based on Nobel Prize-winning science. It's called prospect theory. These 2 psychologists, Kahneman and Tversky, discovered this fundamental quirk in how we're all wired. The pain of losing something feels about twice as strong as the pleasure of gaining the exact same thing. So losing $100 feels twice as bad as finding $100 feels good. It's just how our brains work. And that leads to this really simple but powerful truth. Humans hate losing way more than they love winning. We are just hardwired to avoid loss. That what if scream inside your customer's head? That's loss aversion, plain and simple. They are way more motivated to avoid paying that stupidity tax, losing their time, their reputation, than they are to get the potential win your product offers. And that's exactly why the risk reversal stack works. It systematically kills that overpowering fear of loss, which clears the way for them to finally focus on the good stuff. And the effect this has on the brain is fascinating. A really bold guarantee like this basically hijacks a few of our mental shortcuts. For one, it uses the authority heuristic. That's our tendency to trust people who seem extremely confident. It also triggers something called the endowment effect. When you remove all the risk, the customer starts to feel like they already own the successful outcome, even before they've bought anything. And that makes it way harder to walk away. But here's the key. You're shifting their whole mindset from pre-loss anxiety to post-decision momentum. They stop looking for a way out and start looking for a way to win. Okay, we've talked about the problem, the history, the machine, and the psychology behind it. Now it's time to get practical. Let's move from the why to the how. This next part is your blueprint, a simple 3-step process for you to start building your own architecture of certainty. It's a really logical process. First, you stop guessing and you audit the nightmare. Second, you take what you learned and you engineer the neutralizer. And third, you build a system to automate the feedback so you can actually deliver on your big promise. All right, step 1. And listen, this might be the most important market research you ever do. Stop talking to your happy customers. They're just going to tell you what you want to hear. Instead, go talk to your lost leads. You know, the people who got right to the finish line but didn't buy. And you ask them one simple, honest question. What was the one thing that made you hesitate? Their answer? That's not just feedback. That's gold. That's the raw material for your guarantee. That is the specific nightmare you now have to go and kill. Once you know the nightmare, step 2 is to build the solution. You build your entire risk reversal stack around destroying that one specific fear. So, if their nightmare is data migration, your guarantee becomes, we'll do a seamless white glove migration for you in 48 hours, or your first 6 months are on us. And listen, this can't be buried in the fine print. It has to be the headline. You make that guarantee the loudest, clearest thing about your marketing. And finally, step 3, you build the systems that actually make your guarantee possible. You use technology to create an automated feedback loop, so you're tracking how users are doing against those key steps in your implementation shield. If your system sees a customer is falling behind, or maybe they're not using a critical feature, bam, it triggers an alert. Then you can jump in with proactive help long before they even get frustrated. This doesn't just stop people from leaving, it builds deep, real, lasting trust. And that brings us to our final section. We've looked at the fear, the history, the mechanics, the psychology, and the how-to blueprint. Now it's time to bring it all home and really understand the massive shift in thinking that all of this requires. Look, adopting this way of thinking is a total game changer. You're no longer just a vendor selling a product. You become something way more valuable. You become an architect of certainty. The thing you're delivering isn't just software or a service, it's trust. Real, measurable, unshakable trust. And you prove your worth not with fancy words, but by literally taking the customer's risk and putting it on your own shoulders. That single act changes the entire relationship. You're not a vendor anymore, you're partner. Your success is now completely tied to their success. So here's the bottom line. Picture your customer standing on the edge of this huge canyon of doubt, completely paralyzed by that screaming, what if? Their goal? The successful outcome they want is on the other side. Your product's features, your price, that's just the raw material. But your guarantee, your risk reversal stack, that's the engineering. That's the foundation, the cables, the steel beams you use to build a solid, unshakable bridge of certainty so they can just confidently walk right across. When you really think about it, what this all teaches us is that real, sustainable growth, it's not about some magic trick or a secret hack. It's not some straight line going up and to the right on a chart. It's learned. It's this slow, deliberate process of truly understanding human fear, and then, piece by piece, building the trust needed to help people overcome it. And that leaves us with one last big idea. The old way of marketing was all about the funnel, right? It was a model of force, of pushing people through a process. But the future? That belongs to the architects of certainty, because the best marketing doesn't have to push anyone.
Instead, it creates this gravitational pull of value and safety that's so powerful, it doesn't push at all. It just pulls people effortlessly towards success.